Welcome back to the Swishtalk podcast today, and we're going to be talking about the Charlotte Hornets. The NBA draft is coming up soon, and the Hornets have the 13th and 15th pick in this year's draft. What should they do with these picks?
I think they have a lot of options, especially that they have like two first this year. With the 13th pick, I would, if Tari Eason is available, that's who I would go with. They need a lot of help on the perimeter on defense, and I just like his game a lot. Another guy we consider was Ocha Abaji, really athletic, 3-and-D type of player, and he just fits the perfect mold for like what they need. They want more defense in that team, especially alongside LaMelo with more shooting. Just provides so much versatility. And since the Cavs have the 14th pick, with the 15th pick, I would try to go for a center in Mark Williams, which he'll probably be available if he doesn't go earlier. And I think he could really help them out. He can be a lob threat for LaMelo. He can protect the rim, and he has an extremely long wingspan. Like, he can almost touch the rim off his 2 feet without even jumping. So that's what I would do.
I personally would not use the picks to draft players. I would trade them. I wouldn't trade both of these picks, but one of my takes is that I would trade one pick, maybe a 13th or 15th. It doesn't really matter because they're relatively close. Maybe like Gordon Hayward, James Bouknight, and Kai Jones. They don't really develop. Some of these younger players like Kai Jones and James Bouknight didn't really get much playing time. So I would just go for a major trade for Rudy Gobert. He would solve their rim protection, and he would work well with LaMelo on like alley-oops and pick and rolls.
Yeah, I agree. I would want them to keep one of these picks, and I would trade. I would try to trade 15, but the Jazz, they might want 13. It really doesn't matter. They'll get a quality role guy, especially in this year's draft. You know, a lot of quality role players that they can get. I do like the Bouknight. I don't know if I would add Bouknight in there just because, you know, they already have Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson. But I would do that if I'm the Hornets 100%. You know, you get Rudy Gobert, like you said, really good defender. You would want to get some more defense, you know, through free agency. I would look to get more defense in free agency because I'd be kind of scared that, you know, it would be like a Utah 2.0, especially defensively, like with Gobert. But I think him and LaMelo would be perfect, you know, would be perfect together. And I agree with that trade. I would personally not add Bouknight, but everything else you said, I agree with.
Bouknight, you can exchange him for another young player. I'm sure the Hornets have other young players that the Jazz would like to take.
PJ Washington.
Oh yeah, that's a good example. For the Jazz to do it, they'd probably like want the 13th pick a little bit higher.
Yeah, they would.
But it would be a great reunion for Gordon Hayward.
I think if I'm the Hornets and I have the 15th pick, I would look to get maybe Marjon Beauchamp. Really good in transition. LaMelo's going to find him. Really athletic, strong guy, and I think he's going to be in the league for a really long time.
Recently, the Hornets have hired Kenny Atkinson. What do you think about this move?
I really like it. I think he's the perfect coach, and he's the one I would go with. A lot of people are saying Mike D'Antoni, you know, open up LaMelo more, but I really think I really think Atkinson is a culture guy. We saw what he did with Brooklyn. I believe they did make it to the playoffs in the first round versus Philly, and you know he's a really good coach, underrated. And I think this could really honestly take the Hornets from a play-in to a playoff team, and maybe get out of that play-in. I think he can help mentor a lot LaMelo. You know, really teach these young guys and you know get them motivated and in and out, day in, day out. Good defense.
So the Hornets in recent years, the last 2 years since the play-in has come around, they've been knocked out. What do you think that's like? What else besides the coaching change and like the trade we mentioned? What else can give them that extra push to make it into playoffs?
I honestly really do think it was the center, the issue. But in this hypothetical situation, if they did get Rudy Gobert, they just might want more scoring pieces. LaMelo's a great player, but his scoring in the half court is very lacking, you could say. He's a good transition player. If you would be able to trade maybe a guy like a sign trade with like a Miles Bridges or, you know, something along those lines. I think they should look to keep him, but I wouldn't pay him. I would look to get him into like $100 million, $115 million for like 4 years.
Yeah, I would not pay him like a super max. I would try like you said, LaMelo is not he's a great player, but not a number one option. I think at best he's a 2 or 3 option on like a championship team. So I'd look to get some scoring option first. Hey, maybe they can free up cap space with. It'll be hard because Gobert's contract's big, but if you can free up cap space, you can get like a Bradley Beal or something, or maybe a signing trade.
That would be really interesting. I think defense is also, but even if they get Rudy Gobert, defense is another thing. But
Yeah.
I think with that they do have a lot of depth. They have Book Knight, they have Kelly Oubre, they have Terry Rozier. These are guys that can really help and contribute. But Bradley Beal, he'd be solid with them. He'd be solid.
I think there's some defensive guards coming up into like the free agency. They're nothing good. They're probably like a third string point guards like Chris Dunn, but you could get that from a minimum contract. I'm just saying like the fine details of their offseason, maybe they could go into that, but they still need a bigger solution. Like Chris Dunn is not going to be like a rotational player. Like you need to have some other great defender you need to trade for.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I think at this point you have a lot of depth pieces. I think you just do whatever it takes. Maybe Jake Crowder, I believe, is coming up on a 1-year deal. Maybe if you could try to get a Jake Crowder,
Oh yeah.
or next off season, if he's not available for trade, go for him. Guys like that. You have a lot of depth too that you can make for trades. I think to take that next step, you have to go from good to great. You have to take sacrifices. You have to take risks. And if that was to trade, Rozier or a Book Knight, Book Knight didn't even play his rookie year. He could be something good, but I think you really have to take a big risk here. Even if that is also moving on from Miles Bridges, you just have to do whatever it takes, save money for the long term, and get better surrounding pieces around LaMelo to really take them to that next step.
I see the Suns trading Jay Crowder. We can get on to this on another day, but it's like the Suns, they're in like a rough situation what they do for next offseason. But I think they'd be willing to trade Jay Crowder. They got depth, so it wouldn't kill them. So I've never thought about that. That's actually a good point to make.
Well, we want to thank you guys for listening. It was a lot of fun, and we have a lot more content on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube on here. A lot more content coming. Stay tuned, and I'm really excited for this. Stay tuned for our drafts, too, for the draft.
Yes.
And thank you for listening to Swishtalk today.
Thank you.